Location: Earth. Year: 3100. Designation: Lost Cause. That's how the world ended up. A virus was all it took to knock the world completely off course. Humans used to be the proud rulers of the planet, but now, they were nothing more than slaves. The disaster hit a century ago, but for the humans who survived, it felt like yesterday. It was a totally normal day, nothing out of the ordinary. People were just going about their business when it happened. An unknown virus was released at the same time in 3 different parts of the world. In the countries formerly known as the USA, the Volkov Confederacy, and the Gulf Republic. No one knew what this virus was, but anyone who came into contact with it changed. And it changed a lot of people, almost 70% to be exact. But the change wasn't the same everywhere. The infected in America turned into a horde of undead, but they weren't like the mindless zombies from the movies. These undead didn't crave brains, and they weren't weak at all. Far from it, they were fast, smart, and had super strength. It didn't take long for them to spread like wildfire, forcing the country's leaders to run. You know things are bad when a superpower has to abandon its own nation. But, as a parting gift to the undead, the POTUS activated the nuclear football and nuked his own country. The thinking was, if they couldn't have their country, then no one could. But even that barely seemed to affect the undead, if it did at all. In fact, the radiation from the nukes just sped up their evolution. Not to mention all the innocent people who died because of it. But Americans weren't the only ones dealing with a problem like this. In the Volkov Confederacy, the virus woke up the vampires. They decided to take control from the mortals because they were bored after sleeping for so long. Something similar happened in the Gulf Republic, where werewolves appeared. Soon, the world once run by humans was a world full of monsters, leaving mankind with no choice but to get off the planet as fast as they could. But not everyone could get on the spaceships. As a result, more than 85% of the remaining humans were left behind on the planet to suffer. It's been a century since then, and now the human population is slowly growing again. But they live under constant watch, serving a single purpose, as livestock. The new rulers of the world craved only one thing: human flesh and blood. The undead didn't actually need to eat to survive, but the powerful undead families saw eating human flesh as a luxury. They often organized hunts to get the meat. The cold ones weren't much different. They loved to hunt just as much as the undead from the West. But for them, it was about survival, not just for fun. Unlike the undead, they needed to drink human blood regularly, or they'd get weaker and weaker from hunger. The lichens were the exception to this human-eating rule. Some of them enjoyed human flesh, but most of them survived on meat of other mutated animals. These lichens, the ones who didn't eat humans, were known as vegetarians in their community.
We should be thankful we were born in lichen territory,
an old man said in a weak voice.
Otherwise, our fate could have been much worse.
A crowd of kids had gathered around the old man to listen to his story while they waited for the others to cook. After all, there wasn't much else to do. The lichens were kind enough to give them shelter, food, and basic supplies, so they were much better off than people in nearby territories ruled by the undead and the cold ones.
If this territory belongs to the lichens, then why are other groups here?
one of the kids asked excitedly.
You've got a sharp mind, young one.
The old man gave a weak smile.
About 50 years ago, the 3 great lords of each faction met to sign a treaty to stop them from fighting each other. According to the treaty, each region had to set up 2 embassies for the other 2 factions to live in. That way they could live in peace while keeping a close eye on each other.
In the distance, Tristan Walden watched the others laughing and smiling. They had heard the story so many times, but they still listened, as if they couldn't see the walls surrounding them, or the guards standing on top of those thick walls watching their every move, ready to kill anyone who stepped out of line. Standing 5'6", the brown-skinned man had a standoffish vibe about him. The most notable things about his face were his faint freckles and his elbow-length white hair. He also had a fresh, large bruise on his left foot that he was proud of. Of course he was proud of it. He got that bruise for defying the orders of those beasts. He held a clay bowl in his arms. It had been empty for a while, his punishment for what he did. Tristan was used to the hunger. He had rather starve than obey the commands of the monster who had taken his parents 4 years ago. His short torso and bony hips were proof that he hadn't eaten properly in a long time. The others, desperate to please the Lycans, always shut him out. They all wanted to stay on their master's good side. Otherwise, they could be given away as gifts to the Cold Ones. Or even worse, the undead.
Just keep kissing their boots, you fools.
Tristan spat, smashing the clay bowl on the ground where it shattered into pieces.
Just a couple more hours and I'm leaving this place to join the resistance. That's when you'll all realize you should have sided with me.
The resistance. That was the only thing keeping Tristan going these days. The thought of getting revenge for what the Lycans did to his parents was the only thing that could calm him down. About a month ago, he had overheard the guards talking about the resistance and how they were becoming a real problem. Before that, he had no idea an organization like that even existed. It made sense, though. Living inside the enclosure, they hardly ever got news from the outside. From that day on, Tristan made it his mission to get more information about the resistance from the careless guards. After a month of listening in, he had a rough idea of where their base was. He wanted to keep snooping and find out more, but he was out of time.
If it wasn't for this mark,
Tristan thought, scratching the werewolf tattoo on his right shoulder. He glanced out the window as the moon shone brightly. He had already been marked by his owners. Inside the enclosure, the mark was supposed to be an honor. It meant you'd been chosen to become a werewolf and live that way for the rest of your life. After spending 16 years as a human, Tristan was marked the day the Lycans took his parents, sending them as an offering to the undead and the Cold Ones. Tristan could still see his mother's tears and hear his father's screams as they were dragged away. He remembered how no one helped them. He remembered the pure hopelessness he felt, and in that despair, he snapped. Just 12 years old at the time, Tristan grabbed a baton one of the soldiers had dropped and charged. To this day, he didn't know how he did it, but he remembered jumping higher than he ever had. His fingers wrapped tightly around the baton. After that, his memory is hazy. He thinks he heard a voice, but he can't be sure what it said. The next thing he knew, the guard's skull was cracked open. But he was holding a bloody baton. It all happened right in front of the mistress, the alpha werewolf who owned them. He still remembered her smile as she looked at him, her ruby red eyes shining like she'd just found a hidden treasure. That was the day she marked him. Back then, Tristan didn't understand what was happening. He just remembered the feeling of a hot iron rod burning his skin. That was almost 4 years ago. His 16th birthday was in 5 days. That meant in 5 days, he would be taken from the enclosure, turned into a weremutt, and forced to serve Serafina. It was supposed to be a great honor for his kind.
Honor my ass. I'm not gonna be anyone's slave,
Tristan thought, waiting for everyone to fall asleep. Only then could he put his escape plan into action. Luckily, he didn't have to wait long. It was a full moon tonight. On a full moon, the usual lichen guards were replaced by the voluntary guards. The werewolves couldn't be out under the full moon. It made them lose control of their animal instincts, which was bad for everyone, so they stayed inside. The voluntary guards were just humans who had turned their backs on their own kind to serve the powerful, even though the lichens treated them like absolute crap. Tristan hated them, possibly even more than he hated the lichens themselves. Time to move. Tristan slid quietly off his bed and grabbed a sack he had already packed. There wasn't much in it. Just a couple of bottles of water and a few protein bars he'd managed to get from the guards a couple of weeks ago by using his status as one of the marked. He also had a rope with a small hook attached to it. It was his weapon and his tool for climbing the walls. With his gear packed, he was ready to go, but his luck ran out the second he stepped out of his room. He ran right into the captain of the voluntary guards, Wyatt Dawson. The man stood 6 feet tall, dark-skinned, with an air of authority. He was covered from head to toe in black gear, which helped him blend into the darkness. A large brown scar ran across his nose, covering the bottom half of his square face. His ears were large and pointed, almost like a lichen's. He had medium-length, wavy brown hair that was unstyled, and his beard was trimmed into a goatee. A tattoo on his palm showed he was a proud slave of the lichens. Behind him stood a dozen other men, his patrol team. Tristan knew this man all too well. He had once been his father's closest friend, and he was the one who had betrayed him. Tristan felt nothing but disgust for Wyatt Dawson, especially for the way he acted all friendly, even though he knew Tristan hated his guts.
Pretty late for a night stroll, Tristan.
Wyatt smiled at him.
Where are you going with all that gear anyway? For your own good, I hope you're not planning something as stupid as your father did. Why? Planning to rat me out for another promotion? You backstabber?
Tristan snapped.
Whoa, easy there, little fella. To answer your question, I absolutely will if I have to,
Wyatt replied, showing off the badge on his left shoulder.
You've been honored with a mark, and for your own sake, I hope you honor it. Yeah, just leave me alone. I have to train. I've only got 5 days to get as strong as I can before they take me away.
Tristan spat at his feet before heading toward the gym used by the voluntary guards and himself. It was one of the perks of being marked. Tristan could use their resources whenever he wanted. Not that he used them much.
Another fool, just like his father.
Wyatt shook his head and moved on with his patrol team.
Hey amazing viewers, it's Tristan here. Thanks for sticking with us. By the time of the release of this video, only 8% of our viewers have joined the party by subscribing, and 92% of you might miss out on our next mind-blowing video. So what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and join the exclusive club.